Imagine a kingdom, right? A place defined by these massive mountain passes and this ancient raw magic.
A place where all that geopolitical stability is basically hanging by a thread.
Or maybe by a single knee injury. Now, picture this. The king's second son, banished, disinherited, basically declared a traitor.
Right.
He ends the civil war in a single brutal night, only to find out that the rightful heir, his own twin brother, was actively working with the enemy.
The very enemy waiting at the gates to invade. It's an incredible collapse.
That's not some historical footnote. That's the reality hitting the Kingdom of Rolencia, and that is absolutely where our deep dive begins today.
And it's so much more than just a political failure, isn't it? It's the systematic, deeply personal collapse. We're literally watching the royal family of Rolencia just shatter from the inside out.
Exposing these devastating fault lines.
Exactly. And the source material is just so rich with detail about this hidden magic, suppressed identities, and this profound long-game treachery that was orchestrated right under the king's nose.
So today, we are diving deep into Rowena Cory Daniells, The King's Bastard. It's book 1 of the Chronicles of King Roland's Kin. And the sources we've got, they're just packed not only with plot, but with the specific mechanics of this world.
The nature of its magic, affinity, the roles of faith and prophecy, which are huge.
Huge. And of course, the high-stakes drama that's defining the futures of the 4 royal children, Byren, Lentz, Piero, and Finn.
So our mission today is really to extract the critical knowledge you need to understand why this whole catastrophe happened.
Yeah, how did it get to this point?
We're going to analyze the vulnerabilities of Rolencia, explore how its own legal and religious rules, accidentally enabled its own destruction, and we'll track exactly how the plotting of the king's cousin, Cobalt, unraveled centuries of stability.
So prepare for a deep dive into betrayal and a whole lot of burden. Okay, so let's unpack the map, the history. I mean, what kind of place is Rolencia? It's not some monolithic empire.
No, not at all. It's a rich Central Valley kingdom. It's highly protected, but it's also fiercely insular. And its very foundation, you have to remember, is rooted in conquest.
And that colors everything the current king does.
Absolutely. We're looking back nearly 300 years. The kingdom started when warlord Rolencia, the first King Rolencia, marched his army over the Phoenix Pass.
Right.
He conquered the valley, defeated all the local chieftains, and basically just declared himself king. So this founding act, a warlord seizing the best land, it set a precedent.
What, that the central authority always has to be tougher than the warlords around it?
Exactly. More implacable, as they say. Which leads directly to their core defense system, the dividing mountains.
And these mountains aren't just scenery, are they? They are the border. They separate the fertile central Rolentian Valley, where the capital, Rolenhold, is, from all the surrounding untamed territories. The spars.
The spars are so strategically important. They're these external ridges that fan out from the main mountain range, and they basically act as buffer states.
Nominally loyal, I'm guessing?
Nominally loyal, yes. They pay fealty to the king, but they're also home to these fierce, independent, and really ambitious warlords.
Okay, so let's get into the key players on these spars. First, you've got Cockatrice Spar. Geographically, it's critical.
It's the nearest one to the rival kingdom, Merofynian, and it's ruled by warlord Regulus, who, let's just say he becomes a key antagonist later on.
And then there's Unistag Spar, which sounds like it's in trouble.
Oh, it's strategically vulnerable. Its internal stability is collapsing. The current warlord, Stearden, is frail, and his heirs are already at each other's throats.
So it's a ripe target for destabilization.
A perfect target. And then we've also got Phoenix Spar and Manticore Spar, ruled by warlord Cornell. His raiding activities at the Midwinter Feast raise a lot of immediate red flags.
So the link to Merofynian, that's the real geopolitical juggernaut here. How are they connected?
Through something called the Snow Bridge. It's a series of high ridges, and they're monitored by these fiercely independent city-states. But Merofynian is Rolencia's #1 external threat.
Their king, Merofyn VI, is described as greedy. But the real danger isn't him, is it?
No, the real power and the real danger lie with his overlord Palatine.
And you have to understand this distinction. Palatine isn't just a strong man. He's the driving force of this aggressive expansionism.
Right. And the sources show King Roland is trying to manage this risk. His big play is to betroth his heir, Lentz, to Isolde, king's daughter of Merofynian.
Which is a massive political gamble. He's trying to neutralize their aggression with a marriage alliance, not with swords.
But the map also shows maritime threats, doesn't it?
It does. We've got Ostron Isle, which is governed by an elector from powerful merchant families, and this island has close ties to the royal court.
specifically through the Queen, Myrella, and crucially through their cousin Cobalt.
Ostron is basically Rolencia's unofficial navy. They sanction these sea hounds, privateers, essentially, to contain the constant menace from the Utland Isles.
And these Utland Islanders are described as savage raiders who, interestingly, trade with both Merofynia and Rolencia.
But here's an important connecting detail, right? The powerful, mysterious seer who confronts Byren in the forest.
She has the distinct accent of those Utland Isles.
That's fascinating. It suggests that these fringes, they're not just external problems. The most dangerous magical and prophetic knowledge, knowledge of the royal family's deepest secrets, is coming from these so-called savage threats.
It implies that the threats were aware of Rolencia's internal rot long before the king himself was.
Yeah, and it frames the Utlands not just as raiders, but maybe as a place where the magic that Rolencia suppresses Affinity is openly practiced.
Which would give them a unique prophetic insight into the weaknesses of Roland.
So let's talk about King Roland himself, the Implacable. He earned that title saving Rolencia from an invasion when he was just 18.
He's described as being harder than his conquering ancestor, which makes his current state, his frailty, his poor judgment, all the more alarming.
It really raises the question, why is the Implacable King suddenly so compromised?
Well, we see him relying on these long-standing traditional allies like Lord Dovecote, the Old Dove. His loyalty goes back 50 years. He was rewarded for putting down warlord uprisings.
Which reinforces this idea of stable, old-school loyalty.
But that very reliance on traditional allies like Dovecote is what made the crown so tragically vulnerable to someone who understood modern political warfare.
Someone like Cobalt.
Exactly. It's almost a strategic flaw. King Roland is still fighting the last war, a war of warlords and direct invasion.
While the real threat, Cobalt, is operating through subtle manipulation, magic, and political blackmail right inside his inner circle.
The stability symbolized by those huge phoenix statues at Dovecote Keep is precisely what Cobalt is exploiting.
Okay, to really get a handle on Rolencia's internal weakness, you have to understand their magic and their religion.
You really do. It's based entirely on this stark duality that governs everything, both the spiritual and the magical world.
That dualism is everywhere. Let's start with the gods. First, Halcyon. She's the goddess of healing, growth, summer, all the light stuff.
And her servants are the monks. They're based at the formidable Halcyon Abbey, which is this stronghold built right into the side of a mountain near a sacred pool. Their robes are red, earth tones.
And then you have Cillian.
Yeah.
The cruel god of winter, cold, shadow, the dark.
His servants are the nuns, based at Cillian Abbey. They wear cool colors, blue, aqua, gray. And this religious tension, it's not just theoretical, it's driven by the calendar.
Midwinter's Day is pivotal. It's when the barriers between what they call the seen and the unseen worlds are at their weakest.
And Cillian reluctantly gives up his hold, and Halcyon season begins again.
And that idea of the unseen world ties directly into Affinity, which is the raw, natural magic of this world.
A power that's inherently untamed. And it attracts these god-touched beasts, powerful, dangerous creatures.
Crucially, King Roland has decreed that untamed affinity is illegal.
And that right there is the core social tension. If you show any sign of affinity, you are immediately required to serve the church, one of the abbeys.
And if you refuse, or if your power is seen as uncontrolled, you risk becoming a channel for evil.
So the whole power structure in Rolencia sees natural magic not as a resource, but as this dangerous liability that has to be contained or just completely suppressed.
And that suppression is flawed, isn't it? Because affinity can just show up.
Exactly. It typically appears by age 6, but the Mystic's Master points out it can surface much later, often triggered by some major life-changing event.
Like escaping certain death.
Right, which means anyone, at any time, could suddenly become a magical fugitive in their own kingdom.
We see the immediate danger of this raw power through the affinity seeps.
These are often triggered by just mundane stuff, like mining. The sources suggest the Lince's hunt was near a new tin mine, and when a seep happens, the local warder, like Monk Hedgerow,
who was trained specifically to contain the power.
He proves completely useless. He just collapses in fear. Raw affinity is just too much for their regulated church system to handle.
This brings us to the fantastic world building around the affinity beasts. The Linces, for example, the one Byron's party is hunting.
It's important because of what it produces, the red gold Lincurium stones.
So the hunt isn't just for sport. It's an economic venture.
It is. Lincurium stones are highly prized jewels. And the fact that the largest stone is immediately earmarked for Lence's betrothal gift to Merofynia It highlights this massive contradiction in their society.
What, the kingdom's wealth, the very things they use for high-level politics, come from the raw, illegal magic they're so afraid of.
Exactly. Their entire economy is built on a dangerous contradiction.
We also have the Ulfers, these larger, more cunning relatives of Timberwolves.
And they're drawn specifically to those raw affinity seeks. They're the immediate danger Byron faces when the seer shows up.
And let's not forget the Amphina, the two-headed snake beast.
Its bite is noted as being really problematic because it's prone to going bad, leading to chronic illness like we see with Garzik's injury.
But the deeper meaning is symbolic, isn't it? The Amphina is the direct symbol of Overlord Palatine.
Yes. The two-headed nature implies duplicity, a split purpose. It foreshadows his betrayal and his alliance with Lens. When he wears the Amphina Keaton later, it's a direct declaration of who he is.
What about the phoenix, the royal symbol?
Beautiful, rare birds. King Roland tried and failed to breed them. But Pyrrho, the king's daughter, she successfully raises one from an egg, which links her directly to the symbol of the kingdom's highest ambition.
And there was that rare moment of unity when Byron and Lens captured their spurs in a joint quest.
A very rare moment, but the most potent beast tied to all this political drama has to be the Unistag.
A fiercely shy, nimble, mountain goat-like creature, often 40 years old.
And Pyrrha's ability to lure and control one using her hidden affinity is just a massive demonstration of her power. Its horn isn't just a trophy, it's a statement of control over a sacred regional affinity beast.
Which becomes critical when she takes it to Unistag Spar.
Absolutely. And finally, the manticores. Terrifying. Blood-red fur, lion bodies, scorpion tails.
And their Keaton, the armor plates, is noted as being worth a small estate.
And Byron, in one of his most aggressive moves, kills an entire pride of them. Think about the resources he single-handedly brings back to the court. It's no wonder Lentz felt so constantly threatened by his twin's quiet competence.
So Byron's journey is really one of being defined by other people's expectations, isn't it?
Completely. His brother's shadow, his father's distant sense of duty, and the crushing weight of that terrifying prophecy.
His story kicks off in the field far from the capital, leading a Lentz hunt near Dovecote estate. And as the second son, the spare heir, he's actively downplaying his own role.
He really is. When they kill the Lentzes and get the Lincurium, he immediately claims the kill for Lentz's glory. He's making this conscious effort to avoid any suggestion of ambition that might threaten the king's share.
This self-diminishment is a direct result of the king's decree and all that societal pressure. But the hunt is interrupted.
It is. Byron is ambushed by that Ulf pack, drawn by the Affinity Seep.
And here we have the seismic event, the intervention of the seer.
The powerful seer. She saves him, clips him with her staff, and immediately names him Byren Kingson.
And that detail, using his mother's kin name, that's significant. It marks him as her son, maybe distinguishing him from the king's official line or pointing to a different source of his power.
And then comes the blow. The foretelling that he will kill his twin, Lentz, to claim the throne.
This prophecy just establishes Byron's central conflict for the entire story. He spends the whole time not trying to get the crown, but trying to actively invalidate this brutal prediction.
His attempt to avoid his destiny becomes its own tragic flaw.
And the immediate consequences of the seep are devastating for his friend Orrade.
Lord Dovecote's heir is gravely injured. The seer heals him, but she gives that chilling warning he will never be the same.
And he's not. Orrade wakes up blind, suffering from these debilitating headaches. He's a living testament to the raw danger of untamed affinity.
When they get back to the keep, which is noted as being modern but indefensible, a symbol of the Dovecotes prioritizing comfort over security, Orrade's personal secret just destroys his political future.
He's revealed to be a servant of Palos.
And this is a crucial social detail you have to unpack. The servants of Palos are a persecuted society, stigmatized for being lovers of men. The fact that Orrade wears this damning Palos symbol chain, it immediately places him outside the traditional norms of Rolencia.
The taboo is so powerful that Lord Dovecote, despite his long loyalty to the king, immediately disowns and disinherits Orrade.
Making the younger, safer, less compromised brother, Garzik, the new heir. And this act just shows the deep structural intolerance within Rolentian high society.
A vulnerability that Cobalt ruthlessly exploits.
The tragedy just deepens when Orrade reveals why he was even on the hunt in the first place.
He went to keep Byron safe.
His loyalty is absolute, unconditional, completely selfless. This kind of pure, non-political devotion is so rare in Rolandhold, and it's why Byron trusts him completely.
And it's exactly why Cobalt targets him.
Exactly. Cobalt uses Orrade's Palos status as leverage. By blackmailing Orrade into spying, threatening to expose both of them, Cobalt manufactures treason out of a personal stigma.
It's a brilliant, cynical political move that undermines Byron's main source of non-royal support.
And the personal cost for Byron is just immense. He has these deep feelings for Alina, Orrade's sister.
The source gives us that wonderful little anecdote about her hitting him with a frozen ham, but then comforting him.
It's a perfect encapsulation of their complex, passionate history.
But after Orrade's blindness, when Alina, distraught and desperate, kisses Byron, he pulls away. He refuses to take advantage of her pain.
It shows the absolute honor that constantly defines him. He is the honorable twin, the one who refuses to capitalize on vulnerability.
And that restraint is immediately contrasted by the Kingshire.
Oh, yeah. Lentz, cold and ambitious, reveals his own desire for Alina, stating plainly, "I'll have her one day." It's just a moment that solidifies the vast, unbridgeable, emotional, and moral rift between the twins.
So, trying to get out from under this prophecy, Byron seeks counsel from the Halcyon Abbey mystics.
And they confirm that seers see possible paths. The future isn't set. The outcome can be avoided.
Which is a moment of profound relief for Byron. But it completely informs his strategy for the rest of the book.
It does. He actively steps back and tries to let Lentz shine, believing that if he diminishes his own political presence, he can prevent the bloodshed. Tragically, this retreat only accelerates Lentz's paranoia and Cobalt's plans.
Okay, so while Byron is fighting fate by retreating, his siblings are either grasping for power or hiding their own.
And Lentz, the Kingshire, he just embodies unchecked ambition and this profound insecurity.
His personality is defined by mistrust, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially toward Byron.
Oh, completely. He is the official heir, leading his own honor guard, and their members conspicuously adopt the loose Austronile hairstyle.
A subtle style choice that immediately links him to Cobalt and that Austrian merchant influence. It shows he's already falling under Cobalt's sway.
And he's so quick to condemn Orrade, which is a display of moral high ground that, in retrospect, is just astonishingly hypocritical given his own secret treason.
He constantly mistreats Byron, believing his twin is trying to steal his glory, whether it's a Leogryph kill or anything else.
The most poignant moment illustrating this rift is when Byron offers him that handmade Leogryph tooth necklace.
A token of shared history and admiration.
And Lentz just cruelly rejects it as a boy's gift, adding that calculated insult that Byron only went to Dovecote to see Alina. He interprets every single move Byron makes as a subversive threat to his kingship.
Now let's pivot to Pero, the king's daughter. She's only 13, but she's maybe the most powerful of all the kin.
She is a fascinating blend of courtly lady and potential warrior. She loves the stories of warrior king's daughters and just hates the oppressive constraints of court life.
Pero's story is really about the cost of that affinity suppression.
It is. Her affinity surfaced at Autumn Cust, but she's gone to extreme lengths, using conscious, focused effort to hide it from all the affinity warders.
And her fear is legitimate. She knows she'd be gifted to Cillian Abbey, which for her would be a grim fate.
And her power is staggering, specifically shown by her control over the Unistack.
A fiercely independent beast, noted as being 40 years old, a truly ancient, powerful creature.
The fact that she can lure and guide it demonstrates this exceptional, naturally dominant affinity that far surpasses anything the Church's trained warders can do.
The secret finally blows up when she reveals her power to her mother, Queen Myrilla.
And the Queen's reaction isn't pride, it's devastation. She calls Pero's power a curse. And this reaction is rooted in a prior tragedy. Myrilla had already given up one child to the god's service.
Which brings us to Finn, King Roland's youngest son, often dismissed as the runt of the litter.
At nearly 15, he was the child given up to the gods. He's an acolyte at Halcyon Abbey, training with the quarterstaff, trying to get into the mystics.
And Finn's character is defined by his inherent soft-heartedness and moral clarity, which is sometimes at odds with the Abbey's harsh discipline.
The Grucranes incident is a perfect example of this. Monk Galestorm is abusing these affinity-touched Grucranes, and Finn, purely intuitively, just steps in.
He uses an unpracticed wrestling flip to floor Galestorm, saving the bird.
This action confirms his innate skill with weapons. That flip suggests a natural warrior, but his motivation is purely protective. He lacks the killer instinct they might look for.
Yet his destiny is confirmed by the mystic's master, Catullum.
Right. Finn does have affinity. And when he looks into Halcyon's fate, the holy relic they use for visions, he sees a Zult Merofynian king's daughter.
The masters kind of dismiss it as youthful desire.
They do, but Catelum confirms the vision means Finn is truly touched by the divine and should join the mystics. This sets him on a path of spiritual power, not political succession.
But even within the Abbey's supposedly sacred walls, political cruelty finds its target.
Finn's friend Lone Pine is later killed in suspicious circumstances. It's heavily implied to be revenge from Galestorm's group after the Burcrane incident.
A detail that just hammers home the idea that political vendettas and retribution are endemic to Rolencia. It infects even their religious institutions.
So we've laid out the internal weaknesses, the suppressed magic, the social intolerance, the family rivalry. Now we need to identify the architect who weaponized all of these flaws.
Alien of Cobalt, the king's cousin, son of the king's bastard, and a master manipulator who understood modern influence.
His power is subtle. He constantly reinforces his external connections by wearing those padded shoulders, Ostron style. He's the ultimate insider-outsider.
Exploiting his royal connection while drawing power from that politically shrewd merchant isle.
And his specific methods of treason are what make him so terrifyingly effective. When Byron discovers him blackmailing the disinherited Orrade.
He isn't just looking for information, he's manufacturing a complete narrative of treason.
Exactly. He uses Orrade's secret Palos status to force him to spy on Byron, threatening to expose both of them, framing them as this political sexual conspiracy aiming for the throne.
It's a genius frame-up because it uses Rolencia's deepest intolerance against the heir apparent's most loyal friend, and by association, against Byron himself.
Meanwhile, he's constantly whispering political advice to King Roland and to Lentz.
We see his influence everywhere. Lentz's honor guard adopts the Austrian style, mirroring him.
And critically, when new emblems are being designed, Cobalt suggests Byron should be symbolized by the Leogryph, a beast that attacks the royal phoenix.
It's psychological warfare, reinforcing the king's and Lentz's suspicion that Byron is this dangerous, ambitious anomaly.
But the truly devastating part of the intrigue involves the king's health. We learn that Cobalt's manservant, Valens, is not just a servant.
He's a Merofynian power worker, a practitioner of that foreign, targeted, and dark magic.
And this is a crucial distinction you have to make. Affinity is the raw, natural magic of Rolencia. Power work is foreign, weaponized, and designed for manipulation.
Valens was planted on the king, and he was manipulating Roland's body and will by applying Austronite oil to his bad knee.
So let's analyze the mechanism here. The oil isn't just for pain relief. It specifically targets the king's physical weakness, his old injury. And through this physical corruption, it weakens his mental and emotional judgment.
So the king's frailty, his strange decisions, his emotional exhaustion, it's all revealed to be a prolonged, targeted magical assault.
Designed to soften the kingdom for invasion.
And while the king is compromised, the external threats are mounting. At the Midwinter Feast, we see Warlord Corvel of Manticore Spar behaving aggressively.
He's suspected of sending raiders who destroyed an entire village, a level of violence beyond common raiding, and then he just brazenly denies it.
Which suggests a shift from opportunistic raiding to calculated military probing.
The immediate geopolitical pressure, though, focuses on Unistag Spar, where the warlord is weak and his heirs are fighting.
Lentz suggests focusing their military might on the Utland raiders, looking outward to the sea.
But Byron argues, correctly, for containing the spars, which represent the immediate internal threat.
This strategic disagreement leads to King Roland issuing a challenge. Byron must secure Unistag Spar's loyalty before the Jubilee.
A decision driven by the king's warped judgment, which isolates Byron and puts him directly in harm's way, far from the capital.
And there's also the matter of Piero's betrothal. King Roland tries to secure Cockatree Spar by marrying Piero to Warlord Regulus,
who's described as having easy charm, but being deeply cunning.
And Piero refuses him publicly, acting repulsed. But the real refusal is magical. She uses her hidden affinity to sense his true, dark nature,
causing Regulus to ride off in open defiance. By refusing him, Piero inadvertently turns a key border warlord into a confirmed offended enemy, creating a fatal opening for Merofynia.
So Byron sets out for Unistag with his small, loyal party, only to run into immediate trouble.
Garzik is wounded by an Amphina bite and needs a healer, quickly. Byron presses on and he meets Lady Anais, a kinslayer victim who's trying to reclaim the stronghold.
Byron makes a pragmatic political move. He agrees to support her if she swears immediate fealty to King Roland.
But Piero isn't content to just sit and wait. Recognizing the severity of the situation, she stages this dramatic secret intervention aided by Queen Myrella.
They outfit her in a goat herd disguise, hiding her identity and her powerful affinity, and send her on a vital mission.
To lead the ancient sacred Unistag across the dividing mountains to Lady Unace.
It's a stunning display of secret royal power. Pyrrho, under the name Dipyro, uses her affinity to keep the beast calm.
Which tracks the notice of Monk Seagrass, a halcyon healer who immediately realizes the depth of her untamed power.
The climax at Unistag is instantaneous. Pyrrho rides the Unistag directly into Warlord Stearden's camp.
Using her unseen sight, a capability of her strong affinity, she sees that Stearden himself possesses untamed affinity, and it's corrupted him, made him a channel for evil.
And the sacred beast of the spar, guided by the king's daughter's power, charges Stearden and impales him with its horn.
It ends the internal war and instantly installs the loyal Lady Unace, a clean, brutal political solution enabled entirely by the magic the crown outlawed.
So Byren returns victorious from Unistag. He's secured a critical border. He's carrying this massive Manticore Keaton evidence of his prowess and wealth.
But he returns to a court that's already been poisoned?
King Roland agrees to a public test of Cobalt's loyalty, using a halcyon affinity warder, Autumn Wind.
And this reliance on the affinity warder proves disastrously naive. Cobalt, looking noble and wronged, easily passes the test.
Because the warders can only skim the surface of raw natural affinity.
Exactly. They can't detect the subtle, sophisticated political manipulation and foreign power work that Cobalt is using.
Pyrrho, who can see the truth, she desperately tries to warn her mother, but she's blocked by Springdawn, the Cillian nun.
And the moment of truth arrives when Cobalt executes the final stage of his frame-up. He produces Lence's proof.
A velvet bag containing not the Lincurium stones, but the Lincurium rings that Byren made for Orrade, alongside a fabricated love poem.
This is so specific. Cobalt weaponized the symbols of friendship and love the rings to frame Byren as Orrade's lover and a traitor seeking the throne.
And King Roland, weakened by Valen's magic, emotionally shattered, he immediately banishes and disinherits Byren on the spot.
The seer's prophecy that Byren would be removed from his path is fulfilled, not by murder, but by political decree.
But the moment Cobalt is appointed protector of the castle, the external danger breaks through.
Florin Nero's daughter, the traitor's daughter Byren had saved, bursts in with confirmed intelligence. Merofynian soldiers, about 500 of them, are camped below Cockatrice Pass.
The internal chaos provided the perfect cover for the invasion.
And Cobalt uses that chaos to secure his total authority. He locks Queen Myrella in the Morning Tower using a forged treasonous note, supposedly in her hand.
Framed via the seemingly staunch old lord Steadfast. The kingdom is officially in the hands of the traitor.
Simultaneously, Pyrrho and Queen Myrella are actively resisting. Pyrrho has already managed to expose Valens as the power worker to her mother.
The Queen and Springdawn corner the spy, and Valens fights back fiercely, showing how dangerous power work is. He kills Springdawn before the Queen kills him in return.
Which confirms, without a shadow of a doubt, that Cobalt's machinations were the source of the king's frailty.
Meanwhile, Byren, disinherited but still committed to the crown, rides off alone to confirm the invasion threat.
He's immediately captured by warlord Regulus, the very man Pyrrho had scorned and delivered not to the capital but to Overlord Palatine at Dovecote Keep.
The same place where all this personal drama began.
And Palatine's motive is just cold ambition. He intends to kill King Roland's entire kin, to wipe out the lineage and seize his own destiny.
Openly dismissing a prophecy made by the Merofynian scholar Lord Dunstanny about the king's line.
His symbolic actions just reinforce his brutality. He has Dovecote Keep's beloved doves killed for effect, showing utter contempt for Rolentian life. He wears the Amphina Quinton, proudly displaying the mark of the duplicitous two-headed snake.
And here it is, the true, devastating revelation of the entire story.
Lence was actively working with Regulus and Palatine.
He intended to use the Merofynians to seize the throne from his father. His justification that his father's refusal to invade Merofynia was a bad decision, it just shows his absolute focus on aggressive political power.
Even if it means national betrayal, he was a willing traitor, not just manipulated.
The confrontation is set in Dovecote Keep. Orrade, having tracked Byren, runs Warlord Regulus through with his sword in a staged confrontation.
Showing his absolute loyalty and making that sharp, dark comment that Pyrrho's affinity would have been the warlord's death anyway, tying it all back.
Lence, now completely desperate, uses Regulus's fallen sword to attack Orrade and Byren. Byren disarms him, holding the power of life and death over his twin.
But he refuses to kill him. He upholds his honor and actively chooses to avoid fulfilling the seer's prophecy.
Palatine, disgusted by the sibling drama, forces Lence to choose Kill Byron and Orrade or die with them.
The ultimate test of Lence's character.
And then the explosion. Alina, watching from the mezzanine, creates this massive explosion of fire.
It's a desperate, powerful, raw act. It demonstrates that perhaps she, too, possessed latent affinity, triggered by the trauma of seeing the men she cared about to die.
She forces the Merofynians back, but she is severely burned and dies in Byron's arms, whispering her final furious command. Burn Dovecote. Burn them all. Promise.
Alina's sacrifice, that ultimate cost of passion, it catalyzes Lence's final, shocking act of redemption.
After all the ambition, the jealousy, the treason, he throws himself back into the fray. He shoves Byron and Orrade out the door to safety.
And demands they seal the doors and let the hall be our funeral pyre.
Lence, the traitorous Kingshear, dies a hero, redeeming his treason with self-sacrifice. He ensures Byron's escape and leaves him with a crushing inheritance of a threatened kingdom and a bloody promise of revenge. #outro.
What a staggering conclusion. I mean, we've just tracked the accelerated, brutal, political, and magical education of the Rowena Kingson children.
Byron is now the Kingshear, inheriting the throne by necessity and just defined by loss. Lence is redeemed through this sudden, fiery self-sacrifice.
And Piero and Queen Myrella are left with Affinity, their secret power, now forced into the open as the only real weapon against Cobalt and the Merofynian invaders.
The profound takeaway here is what we identified early on, isn't it? The cost of silence and suppression.
Absolutely. The entire crisis stemmed from hidden truths. Piero and Myrella hiding their affinity, Orrade hiding his palace allegiance, and King Roland hiding his own increasing frailty and the magical manipulation by Valens.
The crown's persistent attempt to maintain order and peace through deceit and denial. It led directly to open war, bloodshed, and the complete destruction of the royal family's integrity and trust.
It's an almost impossible inheritance that Byron now holds. He's racing toward Halcyon Abbey, hoping to rally the monks, but he's fundamentally a changed man.
He is the Kingshear only after watching his twin become a traitor and then die a hero, and after watching the woman he loved die demanding blood revenge. The emotional pressure on him is just immense.
And his political path forward is so fraught with complication. His biggest immediate challenge isn't just defeating Palatine's army in the field.
No, it's navigating the poison court he has to return to.
He has to reconcile with a father whose judgment has been warped by foreign magic, and he has to deal with a mother who is now a killer and harbors deep distrust for the man Byron relies on most.
Orrade, the disgraced, disinherited servant of Pallas.
So, given all these fractured loyalties, you have to consider the gravity of his choices now. Byron is bound by multiple competing oaths. Allegiance to the crown, now usurped by a traitor. Allegiance to the church, whose flawed system failed to protect the king.
And the personal, absolute loyalty he feels toward Orrade and Garzik, who are still so politically compromised. He has to choose which loyalty to honor and which one to break.
Which allegiance, you have to ask yourself, will ultimately prove most dangerous for the new Kingshear?
That is the path he walks now, and that's what we'll be following next time on The Deep Dive.